This time on the show, turning all of these boot keys into one.
This episode of Hack 5 is brought to you by GoDaddy, Squarespace, Gamefly, and viewers like you.
Hello and welcome to Hack 5. My name is Darren Kitchen.
I'm Shannon Morse.
And I'm Paul Tobias.
Oh my god.
Who was that?
That's not Matt. It's producer Paul.
Producer Paul. Ooh, that's so much nicer than Paul the camera guy.
Yeah, but Paul the camera guy has like action figures.
Yeah, that's true. Producer Paul's so much cooler. Oh, he's badass.
Yes. We have an awesome show for you guys this week. We are doing lots of fun USB stuff. You know, once a year,
All of these?
Darren has to just break them out and have a lot of fun.
All right, what are we doing with all those USBs?
We are taking all of this mess and we are turning it into one USB key to rule them all. So you know how you've got, you know, your
One to rule them all.
It's
Okay, Lord of the USBs.
you know, this is what I want to do, right? So I mean, okay, so tools that you're talking about, like Trinity, and then things like Off-Crack, that we've talked about in the past, Conboot. Wait a second, those are three that you've.
Yeah,
you
well,
really like
I'm
the USB
awesome.
booting stuff
I
too.
really like my USB booters.
Okay, well, you take those, and then some of my favorite tools like Backtrack 3, Backtrack 4.
Right.
And my mind's blanking at the moment, but I know that. Oh, and then you've got a whole bunch of different like rescue disks, Helix, like forensic stuff, and put them all onto one USB key, and they just have a little menu so that when you boot off of it, you know, turn that little.
That's so much nicer than carrying around like 25 USBs.
Yeah, I mean, well,
I like it.
You could still look like that. I mean, you're not an Uber nerd until your keychain has like 6 different USB keys on it with like different like things like written on them in like, you know, magic marker or whatever, and then like scratched out, and then later you put something else on it. You know what I'm saying?
I've never gone that far. I will say I've never gone that far, but yeah, that's pretty geeky.
You don't wear the USB key on the little lanyard that comes with it?
I have done it before, but
Really? That's
I will
pretty
admit.
So I don't know. We'll be doing that a little bit later. I know that you're talking about Trinity.
Trinity, yes.
But
It's like CPR for your dead computer.
Woohoo! So reviving PCs up in this, but I guess we should mention, where's Matt?
He's sick.
That's a shame.
I know.
Matt called in sick. We're actually shooting early too, so I haven't seen all of the feedback on the Tomcat stuff that we did last week yet.
No, we've seen like 2 comments.
Well, I mean, I've seen a couple of things, and I'm surprised that I haven't gotten the, you know, I was hoping for the Java guy in the back of the class to be like, well, actually, and I haven't seen that at all yet. So I've just been, I've just been hearing a whole lot of other geeks that are like, yeah, Java, I know. This is how I make it not suck as much. I'm like, wow, I mean, you know, so it is what it is. We'll see. Maybe in a week from now that'll change. But continuing that series maybe the week after, because after this we're in San Francisco.
Yes.
And then
San Francisco
after that,
next week.
we're back for one more episode before we kill off the season, and then come back the very next week with a new one.
Dude, August is going to be an awesome month.
Yes. Hopefully it's going to be a lot better than this month because, well, at least this week in particular,
Yeah,
I've been
this
having
week has been
the worst week. Okay, so broken camera.
That was my fault. I got Darren a battery grip, and the battery grip kind of killed his camera. So don't get the Optica battery grip because that thing doesn't really work.
Broken motorcycle.
Yeah.
That
was just kind of...
Try not to get hit by cars.
Don't get hit by cars, because when you fly over the hood and your motorcycle falls on its side, it kind of bends the motorcycle and gives you a nice little bruise on your knee. It's not pretty. It's not fun at all.
We're hurting. But, you know, we're alive, and it's good to be alive. And
insurance is good.
Yeah, and a little note, and so are helmets, rock on for that.
Yes.
And a little note to you drivers out there, pay attention for motorcycles. Just because they're smaller than you guys doesn't mean they don't have the right of way. You can't just ram right through them. So I'm not bitter. I'm just saying, look out for us. Thanks. I appreciate it. Yeah. And then, so 2 broken things. Oh, and then the website was broken into too.
Yeah.
But I was going to leave that for Matt because he's got more details on that. Thought we could turn it into a lesson learned, do some segment stuff, analysis, and exploit code, and all sorts of fun stuff. But might be a little too early for that, so we'll just, you know, leave that on the back burner for the time being.
Cool.
Yep. And then muddle over it while we're on vacation. So I think that's pretty much it. That's what we're doing this episode. We're getting our USB loving on. So why don't we just get right into it?
All right, what you got, Mo?
Well, but first, let's take a quick break.
Okay.
With Squarespace, you can build beautiful-looking blogs or websites in a fraction of the time it would take with a traditional content management system. Their intuitive drag-and-drop interface is as snappy and powerful as a desktop publishing app. But best of all, there's no software to install, no databases to configure, no patches to apply, and no code to fiddle with. Find out for yourself how simple and powerful it can be with a 2-week free trial at squarespace.com. And use promo code HACK5 to support the show and save 10% off the life of your service at squarespace.com. So if you're a huge Uber geek like me, you've got plenty of tools in your collection that you use to do tons of fun stuff, nefarious stuff, repair stuff, whatever, whether it's Backtrack 3, Backtrack 4, Conboot, Memtest 86, NT Password, Daniel's Boot Nuke, FreeDOS, Offcrack, Trinity Rescue Kit, System Restore CD, BART PE, Helix, Damn Small Linux, Ubuntu, Knoppix. I mean, the list goes on. And you guys have been sending me awesome stuff via Twitter of more stuff that I even need to check out. But the problem is, I don't have enough USB keys. And I'm not carrying around a man purse of USB keys. I mean, nobody needs a MERS, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to put that awesome new 16 gig drive that you got laying around to some good use. We're going to put all those fun little distros on there so that you don't have to be, dorking McDurkerton. Yeah. So this was something that I've been getting lots of questions about for the last forever. Been trying to do for the last forever if I could find a free moment. And hunting around. Every time I look into this, it seems like digital alchemy until Frank Castle came along, and he was determined, on a mission to make this work. Totally got back to me with the secrets. So I am going to dispense to you now the secret sauce to turn one of these into a multipass. So let's go ahead and get the turkey prepped. I have this one already done. We're going to be talking about customizing it in just a little bit here. But let's start fresh. I've got a blank USB. It's a SanDisk Cruiser. Any of you guys know me and the SanDisk Cruiser from seasons past? You know that they're near and dear to my heart. So let's go ahead and get it prepped. What are our ingredients so that we can get this thing booting? Lots of fun stuff. Well, first of all, we need a little tool called PE to USB. So PE to USB is pretty easy. We just go ahead and run this single executable, and it's gone ahead and found our SanDisk Cruiser here. And we just want to make sure that we have enabled disk format, quick format, and force volume dismount checked here. And we go ahead and click start. Say yeah. If you're running Vista, you might want to run this as administrator. But there we go. Operation successfully completed. And we are one step further to having this awesome multipass goodness. There is a note here that if we are doing a drive bigger than 2 gigabytes, you might get an error. But don't worry, it's not a big deal. It just means that we're going to have to go back into Windows Disk Manager and format it FAT32. Here, I'll show you. It's really simple. So pull up My Computer or your desktop or wherever you got your My Computer. Gotta hate that. So right-click and hit Manage, and then down to Disk Management. And this is important because we're going to have to come take a look at this here soon. And you'll notice Disk 1 is my roughly 1 gigabyte FAT right here. If this were a bigger drive, like for instance my 8 gig micro drive where I did this earlier, I got the error and just had to come into here and format it FAT32 so that I can actually use more than 2 gigs, unlike some people that accidentally format 40 gig hard drives as FAT and then they only have a 2 gig partition and they install Windows and then they wonder why they can't install Office. Point being, make sure to FAT32 it for the win. So let's go on to the next step. So next we need to use what's called Grub Installer GUI. This makes it really, really simple. Basically, Grub is the magic sauce that is making all of this happen. If you're not familiar with Grub, you're not in Linux and whatnot land, it's basically a beautiful little boot manager that allows us to boot multiple operating systems and cool stuff like that. You'll notice it if you dual boot with Ubuntu or CentOS or your favorite distro, Slackware for the win, and you've installed Windows first rather than the other way around. Anyway, point being, we're going to go ahead and get our Grub on. So come down here to Grub Install, and I will have all of these links in the show notes so you can just download this package. And what we want to do is run the GUI, and we're going to choose Disk. And we get a little drop down here, and we get HD0 or HD1. Well, let's come over to Computer Manager. We see Disk 0 is my Acer drive, and Disk 1 is that 1 gig SanDisk Cruiser. So we want to make sure we choose HD1. I am not responsible for your computer if you totally accidentally grub it up with this because you chose the wrong thing. So just, make sure. All right, so we've chosen that, and there's nothing else to check. We basically just click install. And there we go. The MBR, the master boot record, has been successfully installed. So now this little guy is bootable. Now there's a little problem with him though, right? There's this little file that is not quite the one that we want that comes with the GUI version. What we want is to actually download the Grub4DOS version 0.4.4, whatever the latest is. Grab it, and there's a little file in there called grldr, right? The grub loader. We're going to go ahead and grab that. And we want to put that on our drive. So we're going to go into our removable disk here, and we just need to paste it in, right? And then we need one more file. So we're going to go ahead and create a new file here. And we're going to call it menu.lst. And open that with your favorite text editor. And this is where all the fun stuff is going to happen. This is where we are going to tell Grub how to and what are our different operating systems that we're going to want to boot, and then later in a bit we are going to go ahead and totally customize this and pimp it out so it's like, all yours and stuff. So so let's give you an example. Let's go ahead and just load up like just 2 things so that you know that this works. You reboot off of it and you're like, hey, I got 2 operating systems on one USB key. How cool is that, right? So for that, I'm just going to go into my other folder here where I have my images, right? So I got a bunch of images here. Now, what will typically happen when you have a bootable, like anything off of bootable USB, like if you've taken the Backtrack 3, Backtrack 4 ISO or something and put it on a USB key with something like UNetbootin, you'll notice that you have a couple of files in there. You got your syslinux stuff, but more importantly, you have a boot folder and you have a Backtrack 4 folder, right? What we need to do are basically copy those things. Those folders onto our USB drive, and we need to add those to our menu.list. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're like, wait a second. If my Backtrack 3 has a boot folder, and my Backtrack 4 has a boot folder, isn't that going to be a problem? No, because we're going to rename the folder, and then we're just going to go ahead and change it in the menu.lst, and it's all going to work. So that's one way to do it. When it comes to floppy disk images, for example, Conboot, easiest way to get that going on USB is actually use the floppy version. It's just a matter of putting the .img file in there and then just pointing to it with our menu.list. And in some cases, especially with Offcrack, which is an awesome resource, the only way to get it really going is to actually make an Offcrack USB key and then extract the stuff out of there. If you're dealing with a lot of ISO stuff, one of the easiest ways to just, rather than burn it to a USB or burn it to a CD and copy over the boot folder and the whatever folders you need is to actually just use 7-zip or WinRAR, but 7-zip is open source and awesome. So you can actually extract that ISO and go ahead and pull what you need out of it. And trust me, I've got a lot more details in the nitty-gritty in the next segment and the show notes about what those nitty-gritties are, but I wanted to give you an idea of how to prep the turkey and what this all is going to entail so that we can boot up and say, hey, what do I want today? Am I feeling in a Backtrack mood, or do I need to, boot up Hirons or Helix because, something's broken or I need to figure something out? Anyway, so stick around in just a bit. We're going to take a little break, and when we get back, Shannon's going to be telling us about a very cool utility that you could also put on your USB multipass, whatever, bootin' happiness, that will help you with repairing computers and things that aren't quite as nefarious as, your standard fare Wi-Fi sniffing, password cracking, hash happiness. Anyway, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get right into Trinity Rescue Kit.
Keep your personal information away from spammers, hackers, and your crazy ex-roommate. Private domain registration from GoDaddy.com protects your privacy by keeping your address, phone number, and more out of the public database. Check out revision3.com/GoDaddy for all of our GoDaddy codes and offers.
So picture this, it's 2005 and my boss's PC is FooBard. I need to get some files off there, and what do? It's a Knoppix. I know, that was the distro of choice back then. Live CD, popped it in, bam, little Samba action later. I got the stuff that Explorer just couldn't touch. A lot has changed since then, Shannon. There are so many great distributions built specifically for rescuing dying computers, certainly Windows, dying computers. So let's go ahead and what's this distro that you're falling for right now?
Well, one of the rescue kits that you can use is called Trinity Rescue Kit. It's basically the coolest little CPR for your computer that's either dying or you have some data that's been completely screwed up, you have a dead hard drive, whatever, and you need to get the data off of there, you need to figure out what the passwords are. Trinity Rescue Kit is the thing that you need to use. I had a little bit of an issue with this. I tried to get in onto a USB using UNetBoot and didn't work. It couldn't find the operating system. So what I ended up having to do was install it onto a CD first and then install it onto a USB using the Trinity Rescue Kit that was installed on the CD.
And
it was kind of strange.
But this is the case with UNetBootin it's about a 50% of the time. It's not always, you know, a guaranteed turn a CD into a USB always. But it's good that they actually have a tool built into the operating system. It's kind of a pain.
So they know that this problem exists, so they took care of it.
I hear there are other ways, but this way actually, you know, if you get a blank CD laying around, it seems pretty dead simple once you get it going. So, but before we get into that, tell me, what does Trinity do for me, though, right? So what kind
it does all sorts of stuff. It has like 20 different things that are built into it. There's a virus scanner. It'll scan all of your different hard drives. There is a...
so what kind of, you know...
It uses everything from ClanAV to FProt to AVG to Bitdefender. So it runs all 4 of these at the same time to try to figure out what kind of viruses that you might have on your machine. After that, you can do file sharing. You can basically take all the files that are on that computer and, you know, try to figure out which ones are still good and everything by transferring them over to another computer using Samba. And you can do that either secured or just by using a guest connection.
Right, and from what I understand, it'll actually either connect to like a Samba server, like a folder share, or just share out all of the drives on the machine, which is quite convenient when, you know, you just... And that's one of those things, like right from the menu. You don't even have to mess around. You just pop the CD in, or in our case, USB, and just select it from the little boot list. I love that.
There was also another thing that I thought was really cool. There was a comment on their website about this guy who has a bunch of contractors come in. They use their own computers for the job, but half the time, they don't remember what the admin password is on their computer.
Idiots.
I know.
Oh.
So he has to go in and use Trinity Rescue Kit to actually figure out what the admin password is, and then he can reset it. So it can also reset passwords.
Oh, well, I love anything that can reset passwords.
I mean, this has like...
Although now it's just Conboot, dude, for the win.
Yeah, Conboot's
until, of course, that gets
pretty cool.
fixed. Yeah.
Fixed? No,
fixed. It'll happen anyway.
So Trinity has like 20 different things that you can do. I mean, this is just scratching the surface. I'm still learning everything about it, but it's pretty cool.
All right, so how do we get this cool tool onto a USB drive so we can actually, like, you know...
All right, so you plug in your CD and you go to the default menu, which is the Trinity Rescue Kit 3.3 default, and it runs through everything. And you type in TRK2 USB TACD/dev/SDA TAC-S 900 or 128, 500, whatever you want that to be. Okay, what this means...
Yeah, I was about to say, that's a lot of stuff. So I get that TRK to USB, the command kind of says what it does. It takes
You're taking Trinity Rescue Kit, you're turning it into a USB. TACD/dev/SDA. SDA is the device, the partition that you want it to use. The thing about this, yes, you want to use the USB. This is your partition.
Yeah, now so now it's going to be SDA though.
Yes. The problem with this though is we tried this. We tried putting SDA1 and SDA2. You can't put any kind of partition number at the end of it, or else it'll just go like file error. You can't do that.
Right. So it's basically going to clear the entire USB key. So if you've got stuff on there, you might, you know.
Yeah. So
but whatever. These are
make sure that you're putting this onto your USB and not your hard drive, because that could be really bad for your computer, and it would completely, you know, default your purpose for doing this in the first place.
I'm trying to rescue your files, but hang on, I just
Sorry, just overwrite your entire hard drive.
Yeah, you didn't need that hard drive, did you? No. And if you're running out of these, just go to a trade show. Seriously.
Yeah, dude. CES, man. For the win.
All right. So what about the TAC-S?
TAC-S is the size that you want to save on the USB for Trinity Rescue Kit. It has to be over, I think it's 128 megabytes because Trinity takes up 128. It can't be any more than 1 gig. They suggest keeping it under 1 gig just because apparently 1 gig will screw up really crappy BIOSes.
Well, there are plenty of those.
Didn't know that. Yeah, did not know that. So I made mine 900, and then I just pressed enter, and I let it go through the routine, and eventually it installed everything onto the USB. It does take a couple of minutes, but eventually it does get on there. Then it works.
Wow!
Yay!
I love this. All right, so we've gone ahead and we've taken this cool utility CD over to the USB. I say let's take a break, and when we get back, we'll take that same USB drive and then put it onto our multipass so we don't have to waste an entire drive for the whole thingy. You know what I'm saying?
Sounds good to me.
Woohoo!
I want to let everybody know that GameFly is an amazing service. They are the largest online video game rental service and offer a choice of over 6,000 new and classic titles across all consoles and handhelds. With plans starting at $15.95 a month, GameFly members can rent 1 to 4 games at a time and keep them for as long as they like. You can also purchase a game if you fall in love with it. They'll send you the box and the manual for a nominal fee. Head on over to gamefly.com/hack5 to get 2-week free trial membership. Gamefly.com/hack5.
So in the previous segment, we already prepped the turkey, if you will, and actually set this guy up so that we can boot off Grub, and though it got that beautiful little menu, except there's nothing in it. It's time to go ahead and actually populate our USB drive with all of our little live disks and utilities and get them up there in the menu. So how do we do that? Well, as I mentioned earlier, it's just a matter of copying over the necessary files and setting the parameters in your menu.lst file. So let's take a look at what we actually have here on my F drive. So, for example, my Backtrack 4 is typically, and if you would, take a Backtrack 4 ISO and actually just extract it with something like 7-zip, you'll notice that it is basically a boot and a BT4. And there's a couple other files, but these are the two that are important. Now you'll notice that I actually renamed the boot folder to boot BT4, and that is because I actually have multiple ones. I have a boot BT4, I have a boot off, and by the time I'm done with this, I'm going to have a ton of those. So really, when it comes down to the menu, it's just a matter of making sure all of those line up. So there's my boot BT4, and here at the very top, there we go, is my Backtrack 4. Now I just give it a title, Backtrack 4, and most of these are just a matter of specifying the kernel and then a init-rd to where the actual image is. Okay, so in this case, just make sure that it's boot BT4. For some are really easy, like memtest86 or Daniel's Boot and Nuke, especially if it's a floppy disk image. It's just a matter of copying over that IMG file, and then specifying the kernel, and I will have the nitty-gritty stuff in the show notes because it'll vary from thing to thing. In fact, let me show you an example here. You'll see that memtest86 and dban here are just matters of these .imgs of these floppy disk images. If you actually look on the disk, it's, hey, that's kind of interesting. Is that 1.44 meg or, well, 1.4 meg? There we go. Yeah. Conboot. This one was kind of a PITA. So, but we got that one running, and now we can actually get our Conboot loving on a USB. So that's happy. What else do we have on here? We got NT Password Cracker. We got the System Rescue CD. FreeDOS, OffCrack. OffCrack is kind of an interesting one to mention. This is a good example of one where it's not as easy as just extracting the ISO and copying over the pertinent files. This one and a couple others are like it, where you actually want to use like a I'd say like a temporary USB drive, where you'll take this and using the same method that you would to normally make it a USB bootable drive, you'll go ahead and do that. For the case of OffCrack, there's actually a tool, I forget the name of it, it's in my utils folder, it's called TazUSB. This little utility, at least in the case of OffCrack, is what you would use, and you would specify your ISO just like you would do with unit booting, and then specify your target, and it would actually build it, and it takes forever. But when it's done, you've got a USB key that is bootable with OffCrack, and then you would actually just browse to that and then grab the pertinent files, copy them over to your multipass, and then set it up in the menu.lst. Okay, so we've got a ton of goodies here in our menu file. So let's actually go ahead, boot up into this, take a look at it, and then we'll get it all customized, because we got to. It'll be fun. Put a skin on it. Alright, so I'm booting up my netbook here, and you'll see that I've got my USB hard drive, my SanDisk Cruiser. I'm going to go ahead and boot off of that. And bam, there we go. We got this gorgeous little menu, and we can see that I can boot into Backtrack 4, ConBoot, Memtest86, DBAN, FreeDOS, all the fun utilities. And trust me, this is not an exhaustive list, and I'm sure you guys will come up with some more that you would put on your ultimate USB boot key awesomeness. So, hit us up on the forums for that. But, maybe I'll just go ahead and boot into one of these, show you that it works all sweet and stuff. And, bam, Cryptos Logic, hello. There we go. But what we actually want to do now is get some customization on so that this thing is all skinned up for us. So I'm going to actually restart this. Alright, so I'm booted into Ubuntu here, and I really want to customize my awesome new USB key with a little bit of personalization, so what better than to give it a skin, a little grub splash screen. I'm going to show you how easy it is here in Linux with a little GIMP awesomeness, right? So I got two images here. I got an F-22 Raptor that I took a shot of, oh, there we go. That's my bike Josette with an SR-71 Blackbird. Let's go ahead and actually convert this into an image that we can use with Grub. Now, we're going to actually have to create a file that's compatible. In this case, it's going to be an XPM image. I know, right? Whatever that is. And then we're going to have to gzip it on top of that. So obscurity for the max, to the win, and all that fun stuff. So let's actually just go ahead and throw open some GIMP here. So I'm in the GIMP, and what I want to do is actually just go ahead and create a new image. And I'm going to make it 640 by 480. And I also need to open an existing image, that one on my desktop of Josette and the Blackbird. And there we go, it's all selected, so I'm just going to go ahead and hit copy, come over to here, paste it right in there, maybe position it a little bit better. Let's see, we got a lot of stuff going on here at 640 by 480. Let's see if I can make this a little bit more manageable. Yeah, move that up to there. Oh, that looks good. I like that frame. All right, cool. So there's a couple of things that we have to do to actually prep this image to become an XPM, and what we need to do is crush these colors down to 14. I know, right? So there's going to be like dithering and all sorts of crazy stuff going on. I would be doing this in Photoshop, but Photoshop does not like to do XPMs. So, get some Linux loving on, and we just go to Image and Mode and Indexed. And then we get this nice little dialog here where we leave everything as default, except instead of 255 colors, let's make that 14. We hit convert, and there we go. It looks like a boot screen from the 90s. But hey, it's our boot screen from the 90s, and this couldn't just be like a, sweet CB750 awesomeness. This could be, Tux or Jolly Roger. But anyway, you'll get creative, and I'm sure we'll see it on the forums. But let's go ahead and save this. So File, Save As, and we want to make sure that we actually choose the file type at the very bottom here, XPM. So on the desktop, I'm going to call that Josette. Whoops. XPM. Going to hit Save. And we're going to merge the visible layers. And there we go. We have our file. So if I throw open a terminal here, and see there to our desktop with a capital D, we can see that we actually have that Josette XPM file there. And we just need to gzip the XPM file. And there we go. And I believe our, there's our multipass in /media. Yeah, everything's there. So we just need to copy over our gzip. And there it is. And we're just going to CP that. So we've CP'd it right over to there. And then last but not least, we actually have to go back into that menu file and give it a little parameter there to actually tell it to use that splash. So let's go ahead and used Vi last time. Let's use Nano. And it's just a matter of saying splash image, the file name, xpm.gz. Let's go ahead and save that out. And we are ready to reboot. All right, once again, we're going to boot off of our USB key. So I select the Cruiser, And now instead of some ugly blue menu, there we go. It's my bike. Yeah. And I got all my tools, and I'm on cloud 9 because, you know, this all worked. Now, I know we covered a lot of ground here, and you may have some questions, so of course, hit us up on the forums and the blog comments. Just tweet us or feedback@hack5.org, especially if you have some suggestions for other tools like, you know, obviously, you know, Helix and your Con Boots and your BART PEs. But if you have some other tools that you think that we should totally add to this list, let us know. We'd love to check those out. But you know, that's pretty much it for this go round. But I'd love to hear what you guys think, and I think at this point we need to take a quick little break and then wrap this bad boy up.
Thank you for that astounding information, Darren. I very much appreciated it.
You're very welcome, Shannon. I am glad that I could introduce you to so many complex topics of computer technologies, and now we can digest it in an easily format that is podcasting.
It was so very interesting, but now I must tell you about another podcast on Revision3.com, which is called Totally Rad Show.
It would be totally unwise of us to not cross-promo shows on the same network as us. It's one big community.
Enough of that. You know TRS, they're going over to Comic-Con. Oh. San Diego Comic-Con. Yeah, that was real. And they're talking about everything from comic books to television to video games to movies, all sorts of crazy stuff. And they are recording live at revision3.com/TRS. And they just came out with intro DVDs. You know all those delicious intros.
And you know, kudos for keep going. Honestly, like, I just got to throw that out. I thought that was the blooper, but anyway, so we'll keep going with this, and I just want to let you know that if you would like to come out to Williamsburg and hang out with us in all of our stupid dorkiness that you have just seen, and yes, that's how it is, come out on August 15th. We are having a meetup at Busch Gardens, and then afterwards we're going to some pubs and stuff. But it is open to all ages, and while the Busch Gardens part...
It's going to be the first time I've gone to Busch Gardens this year. That's so sad.
I know. We'll get one of those fun passes and go a second time or whatever.
Yes!
Yeah, it's like $60 a head or something. But then the bar part afterwards does not have a cover, if you will. Although that does have an age restriction, so you're damned if you do. Anyway, come out and drink with us and have some fun at the theme park. It'll be cool.
Woo.
Yeah, and roller coasters and hacking and awesome stuff. You can find all the details over at hack5meetup.squarespace.com. Yes. There's also a Facebook place where you can RSVP if you know that's your thing, and we look forward to seeing you.
We do.
What's going on next week?
Oh gosh, next week we're going to be in San Diego.
Why are we going to be in
Oh wait, not San Diego, San Francisco.
Actually, we are flying through San Diego.
Family's from San Diego.
Yeah.
Revision 3's from San Francisco. I get them confused.
We'll be in the Bay Area, so hit us up on Twitter, because between the, what is it, the 30th and the 2nd?
Yeah.
Yeah, that Thursday through the next Sunday. Anyway, yeah, so hit us up if you want to. We'll have a tweet up. Huh?
Oh, that would be fun.
Figure
Saturday night, yeah.
Paul doesn't even tweet.
Even Paul will tweet.
Yeah. Of course, Paul can't cue his camera to save his life, but that's okay. I think we were very heavy on this episode, so I need to go take a nap.
Yeah, dude, me too. I'm so tired.
So anyway, we want to remind you, as always, to stick around to the end of the show, because you will see the HP's clips from HP's Insight from the Experts. It's got J-Lo and it's awesome. So just stick around for that right before the Skateboard Kid. But until then, it's time to remind you once again. What's that song? It's Trust Your Technolust.
Trust your Technolust. Good job.
We did not just do that.
Yeah, we did.
We fail as podcasters. Can we just play Oregon Trail already? I finished my homework. Hello and welcome to Hack 5. My name is Mud. If I stop looking at that LCD screen.
Can we like put this on the set and just eat it?
No, that'd be too unprofessional.
Oh, so?
Yeah, that's what gaming needs, is more dysentery.
Expert James Gaskin will get you prepared for any disaster with his pirate backup system.
ARG. ARG. Automatic, archive, redundant, restorable, generations, and happiness.
Okay.
You can get business accounts so all 10 of your computers are automatically backed up. When that person comes to you in your company, and that person always does, and say, you know, I right-clicked and I deleted last week and it was the wrong file, and you know, I've rebooted and it's all gone. You need that file back, you're happy again.